But I wanted to welcome you again to the first 15 accountability call with intentional professionals to get the best start for your week possible. And let's just jump right into the wins since we are at this point. Let me open up our screen and share. All right, we're getting it together. We're getting it together. I can't see all the stuff. Anyway, so Ivo, since you're here, can you go ahead and share with us in the chat what your wins were for last week while I try to get the screen to work correctly? Thanks. I guess while you're typing, I can talk. So my win from last week was, I actually had two. I was able to launch the second course, Priceless Self-Love, which I'm very proud of. I've been wanting to share that with people for the longest time, and I was finally able to get that done and get that out there. And also, I was able to, with a lot of tedious, mind-numbing setbacks, I was able to launch a new site. The website is now on WordPress and it's a little bit sleeker. It's got more information, and that was very interesting to navigate. So those are my wins. And then let me open up the chat, see what Ivo has going on here. Now I have to move some stuff. All right. So you said your wins, the navigation journal has passed its initial testing and is now being transferred to the live environment. Awesome. Congratulations. You're working on the marketing website now. That's amazing. Congratulations. Anytime we are able to get something done, it's a win, especially when you're moving from phase to phase like that. Very proud of you. Way to go. We're going to come up to the encouragement section, and hopefully that'll be something that can also add value, because it's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. I wrote about it in the blog this week that went live last night. You're welcome. And also it's what I do. And I want to make sure that my audience is in the know and on the pulse of all the things that are important. If they're own business owners, that's a really big deal. But even if they're not, if you're an employee, middle manager, executive, like these are all important things for business in general. And you can even take this, the things that I talk about in the blog and on this call, and apply them to your personal life. I often do. I'm big into tech. I try to use technology to leverage my time and make things more efficient in my life. You know, I get teased a lot because I use Calendly for my social calendar, but it keeps me in check. I don't double book meetings anymore. I'm never confused as to where I'm supposed to be. I know what's going on. I can look at it ahead of time. And I have all these different settings built in so that I can thoroughly manage my time, because my time is my biggest asset. It's all of our biggest asset, really. But when you are a solopreneur, especially, your time is money, and you have to make sure you're spending it wisely. So we're going to get into talking about a really important topic in a few seconds. But thank you, Ivo, for showing up and sharing your wins with us. We really appreciate you being here. You are probably our most seasoned member at this point, but we appreciate you, and we look forward to hearing more about what you're working on. And I'm going to move right on into our next section, which is okay, here we go. This is our encouragement section, and I'm going to talk about consulting. Surprise, surprise from a consultant. But I'm talking about this today because consulting, as much as people think they understand it, there's a lot of nuance to consulting. And even I didn't know this maybe about 5 years ago. It wasn't until I began to work as a business consultant with the Small Business Development Center that I started to understand the importance of business consulting. So it's a very interesting subject to talk about. And what I honed in on this week on the blog is about management consulting and why that's important and why it can be good for small business too. I think a lot of times we think about, oh, okay, yeah, you bring in someone, I want someone to tell me what to do, or to take their expertise and quickly tell me what I need to fix. And that is one aspect of consulting, but really when you get down to it, it's not the only way, and it's not always the best approach, depending on where you are in your business, what you're dealing with, and what the goals are. So I just want to break down real quick. So business consulting in general is a little bit more of a short-term engagement, whereas management consulting are more long-term engagements where the consultant or consultants, it could be a team, will be taking a deep dive into your organization. It could be a nonprofit, it could be a for-profit, but they are going to basically search it inside and out to understand all that's going on there so that they can address whatever problem it is that you say you're having that you want a solution to, or goal that you're trying to reach. And it's a really interesting process, but really larger corporations are the ones who utilize this the most. And you hear about McKinsey, they do all these studies. Well, they're management consultants. So they're constantly going into larger corporations, learning about how they work and solving their problems and helping them reach goals or cut costs or whatever the goal is. And so you don't really hear about that on the smaller business side, which is what I'm advocating for, obviously, because that's what I do. But I think it can be really valuable too when you're small, because if you want to get bigger, some of those things need to be looked at by an outside party, because when you're only having your organization and people in your organization look at issues and try to solve problems, there is a chance that there's not going to be a whole lot of innovation there, and maybe not a whole lot of new ideas. And why do I say that? If you remember, or if you followed the blog, last week I talked about a book called Range, where the author talks about how being a generalist is triumphant in a specialist world. Why? Well, when you're a generalist, you have a breadth of knowledge over many different topics, but when you're a specialist, you have a depth of knowledge on one or maybe a few topics. The problem with that is when you encounter something as a specialist that's unfamiliar, that you don't really quite understand or know how to fix, you don't have as much in your reference to address it. That's not something you've already seen before. And we know nothing is new under the sun, but sometimes you have to be able to see outside of the industry you're in or the problem that you're seeing to come up with innovative, creative solutions. So a specialist who has dealt with different industries, maybe on the same kinds of issues, maybe on different issues, can be able to dig into their toolbox and say, hey, okay, you're having this issue. I worked with an XYZ company over here, and they were having a similar issue, or their issue was giving them that same outcome, and this is what we did. And it gives them just a different perspective to bring to the table, and that may be holding the key to your issues and your goals. So just keep that in mind. Consultants are great. They can be costly, I understand, but they're bringing an outside perspective. They're bringing fresh eyes, and they're bringing new ideas. And that's sometimes exactly what you need, because when you're in a group, well, they say you can't see your label from inside the jar. Things can get a little stale. You think you know everything. You think you know all there is to know and all that can happen. And sometimes you get very surprised, and that's not always the case. So just putting that out there, consulting can be a really great thing, and it can really bring a lot of value that you didn't see and that you may not have anticipated. We can all benefit from that. All right, moving on to the me time. This goes really fast. So me, most impactful item. So we want you to pick a me, commit to it, and share it. So what's my me? I have so many things on my mind lately that I want to work on. I know I can't do them all at the same time, so this has been a bit of a struggle for me. But my big me for this week is to finalize my certification, or at least my paperwork to submit, so my business can become women-owned certified and minority-owned certified. Because even though I enjoy the one-on-one aspect of doing business, I want to be able to do business on a larger scale, and that will be government contracting with larger entities. And you have to have those designations. A lot of times there are set aside funds for minority-owned, veteran-owned, women-owned businesses where you won't be the prime contractor, you'll be a sub, of course, but the primes have to set aside a certain amount of their contracts to subcontractors that fit in those categories. And I have a friend who has been doing consulting for about 15 years now. She's been doing that, and she has really encouraged me to take that step. And it's not something I've ever done before. I've guided people through some of the processes related to it, but I've never done it myself. So this is new for me. I'm, a little bit out of my element, which is fine. It's okay to be a little bit new to something. I'm just doing a whole lot of new things lately. And it's very interesting because, when we start things, we're not always great at them. And so that's my me, is getting my paperwork in so that it can be approved. I think it takes about 10 days or so for approval. So that definitely by the end of this month, I will have those certifications and I can move forward with that. So Ivo, let's see, you said your me this week is getting navigationjournal.me live, so new users can actually begin subscribing to the service. All right, so we're gonna hold you to that. We'll be checking in. Hopefully next Monday you can come and tell us about your successful live launch, and we can actually start using it maybe next week. So thank you so much for sharing. I just want to make sure that we're always looking towards what else we can do. Sometimes things get a little stagnant and you feel stuck, that you cannot do anything, or that you can't do all the things you want. But there's always something that you can approach or something that you can learn in the meantime. And sometimes it's good to divert your attention away from just constantly moving towards one target if things aren't quite panning out. Not that you're giving up, but sometimes shifting the focus helps. I know for me, if I'm working on something that's a really tough problem or very complex issue, and I feel very frustrated, I just walk away. I go wash the dishes, or I do something totally unrelated so that I can take my mind off of it for a while and give my mind enough time to be more creative and to rest. And sometimes those ideas just pop up in the most unexpected times because you are giving yourself a break. Like, I know this is something that I was passionate about, rest, and how rest is revolutionary. So you have to give yourself moments of rest. You can't just go constantly, day after day, minute after minute, and not come up for air. You're just going to exhaust yourself, and you're not going to get any further along on your goals than you're trying to do because you're so absorbed in it. And I'm kind of guilty of that. Last week, that was very much me with the course and with the website. I just was head down. I didn't watch any television. I was not really and when my screen time came back to me yesterday on my devices, it was telling me I used like 30% less screen time. So I know that I really wasn't tuned into anything but what I was doing. And that's okay in spurts, but you don't want to get stuck in that rhythm. It's pretty unhealthy and it's not balanced. So we want to try to strive for as much balance as we can. So this week I'm going to be volunteering at the players tournament at TPC Sawgrass, which is going to be interesting. I'll be there for 4 straight days. And so that'll be really interesting. It's my first time volunteering. I've attended before. And so that'll be something a little bit different. And I don't know who I may meet at that event. There are a lot of corporate sponsors there. There are a lot of really hardcore golfers there. And I'm sure a lot of them have either roles in companies or their own businesses. So there's a lot of possibility and potential in me attending this event. And I'm really excited about that. So on that note, our time is up. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Thank you so much, Ivo, for joining us. And thank you for tuning in, whether you're catching this live or on the replay. We hope to see you next time, and take care. Bye.